Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Have Your Say video, and this video is for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 17 Episode 9, where you get to vote at home as to whether you agree with the outcome of the episode. So today we're going to be recapping the episode, going through the results of the Have Your Say poll, and I'll be talking about a little bit of light-hearted drama to do with apparently Jules Sparkles got fired by Trinity the Tuck, and Bob the Drag Queen claps back at Violet Chachki. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Also, quickly, I noticed on YouTube that over 65% of you watching are not subscribed to my channel, so please stop being freeloaders, yes, I said it, and make sure you hit subscribe because it does actually make a huge difference to my channel, and I'm putting out all this amazing quality content for you all, so please just hit that subscribe button because it does actually make a huge difference. Okay, so let's start by recapping the episode. So the queens come into the workroom and we find out that it is the reading challenge. Oh. Don't worry, I'm not going to wear these the whole time. I love the reading challenge. I think it's one of the funniest mini challenges, and obviously it's a staple of Drag Race. I thought there were a couple of really funny reads in there. I really liked some of Susie's jokes about Lexi and her liver and, you know, obviously like the 12-step program and that, because Lexi has been very open about that sort of side of herself with addiction, but obviously Lexi also found it really funny. There were also quite a few other jokes. I thought Anya also was really funny as well. I don't think it was the best reading challenge that we've ever had, but I thought it was serviceable. And we find out the winner of the reading challenge is Susie Toot. Now, I do agree because they showed, I think, 4 of her reads, whereas for everyone else, they showed 1 or 2, so it was kind of obvious. But I do also think she probably did have the funniest jokes. And I actually asked this in my Have Your Say poll, and which was question 1, was who was the best in the reading challenge? And you voted 41% for Susie Toot, 18.9% for Jules Sparkles, and then 18.7% for Anya Nerve. I do agree. I think Susie did the best. I really liked Anya and Jules as well. And I thought Jules was really funny because she was able to clap back to people like Arietti with an even funnier response, which I think sometimes is even funnier than actually reading, is if you can clap back at someone with a funny read. So it was a perfectly good reading challenge, but maybe nothing to write home about. So we then find out the main challenge for this week is another design challenge. Yay! Now, as we all know, and I've said multiple times on this channel, I am a fashion expert and I do have 9 PhDs from the University of Fashion. So obviously this is right up my alley. But in all seriousness, I'm not massively into fashion, as I know you're probably bored of me saying by now. So usually the design challenges aren't my favorite for that reason. But we find out that this design challenge is based on the legendary fashion designer Betsey Johnson, and she is the guest judge this week. I love Betsey Johnson. I mean, obviously she's always calling me for fashion advice, and I'm like, Betsey, please, I'm already on the phone with Donatella and Tom Ford. You need to wait your turn. But seriously, I loved Betsey Johnson. She was so fun in this episode. She's such a trailblazing icon, but she also seems like a really lovely, fun person. So I really enjoyed that they were kind of switching up the format at least by having the challenge based on the guest judge. And we find out there are 3 collections or sort of categories within the challenge that the queens can choose from, which are punk grunge flappers, prenup, and Betsey's prom. And I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, which of the 3 collections would you choose? And you voted prenup 46.5%, punk grunge flappers 38%, and Betsey's prom 15.5%. Okay, so let's move on to the most interesting part of the episode, which is the actual runways, because that is the challenge this week. And what I'll do is I'll go through each of them in order in which they appeared, and I'll say whether you voted yay, nay, or just okay in the Have Your Say poll. Okay, so the first 3 queens were in the category punk grunge flappers, and the first queen was Jules Sparkles. I really enjoyed Jules's outfit. It was one of those things that at first, when I first looked at it, I thought, oh, I'm not sure. But then the more I looked at it, the more I realized that is Betsey Johnson because it's so whimsical. I really enjoyed the way she played with the different colors and textures and things like that. And it did actually work in the end. And I was a little bit concerned because she'd obviously made that mistake with the velvet being the wrong way round. So to see that she had actually managed to create something really good out of that, I was actually really impressed. So I would definitely give this look a yay. And it seems that you agreed because the vast majority voted yay as well. Also, I know a lot of you in the comments from my previous videos were saying that the colors of the yay, nay, just okay didn't match between the different charts. I didn't actually choose those colors. Google automatically assigns the colors based on the proportions, which is why they're not always the same. So I did listen to your feedback because I am a wonderful human being.
Liza Minnelli, lies.
And I had to manually go in and change the color to make sure they were the same across all of the charts because it doesn't do it automatically. So to say thank you for my incredible generosity, please make sure you like and make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Okay, so next up was Lydia B. Collins. This one was really tricky for me because I really wanted to like it, but there was just a lot going on. I could really appreciate that I think it did take a lot of skill and effort to make the outfit. I just think that it was just too much. It was a little bit like that saying, I think it was Coco Chanel who said, before you leave the house, look in the mirror and take one thing off. And I do think that Lydia maybe could have done that. I think she was just trying to do too much. But I will say it did look very Betsey Johnson in a way in terms of it being whimsical and things, but just maybe not the finish and the finesse that Betsey Johnson has. But I personally didn't think it was as terrible as the judges said it was, because I could see that at least there was some thought that had gone into it. It was just too much thought. So I would actually give this a just okay. And it seems that the majority of you agreed, with over half of you voting just okay, but then a decent amount of nays as well. And then last for this section, we had Susie Toot. I thought this outfit was okay. I don't think it was necessarily groundbreaking. I did think that she had the punk element of it a little bit with the hairstyle. I did like some of the detailing, but overall it was maybe a little bit simple, but it also wasn't offensive. So for me, it would be a just okay. And it looks like the majority of you agreed, with most people voting just okay, but then also a decent amount of nay as well. And I guess I would agree, it was a just okay, but more towards the nay side of it. Okay, so then we had the next collection, which was Betsey's prom, and the first queen was Corey King. Now, this one was tricky. Even Corey herself kind of knew that this was not great. I liked the color. That's about it. I think it would have been interesting to see what Corey had done, because she said she was going to do a full-length gown, but then went for more her traditional style of having it very short, because she didn't think that the full-length gown was going to be good. I will say Corey has a fabulous body. Every single time the body is on point, the way it curves, her padding is incredible. So that is always down. So she did look good. But it was when you kind of looked a bit closer, like the judges said, you could see the really dodgy hemline. Even I clocked the hemline, and I am no fashion expert, as you know. So yeah, unfortunately, I would just have to say this was probably my least favorite of all of the outfits. I just think it wasn't really on par with any of the others, and I think she could have pushed it a lot further. So unfortunately, I would have to give this an A. And almost 90% of you voted nay as well, so I think you all agreed. Next up was Anya Nerve. I really wanted to like this outfit because I really like Anya, but this was just not my favorite. I think it was just a little bit too simple, but also not that flattering. Anya did say that she doesn't sew or really design or anything like that, so I can kind of understand. As someone else who I also would struggle, I couldn't even make one bow, let alone three, but it was just quite simple. I don't think it really was that flattering. But I will say she was selling it on the runway, and I really liked her attitude of saying, well, you might not like it, but I still feel cute. And I think that's a good attitude to have in a way, because I think she knew it wasn't the best, but she was still selling it and having fun. So that's what we all love about Anya. But I would have to give this look a nay, I'm afraid. And it looks like most of you also agreed, with most voting for nay, but then also a decent amount of just okay as well. And last up for this collection, we had Lana Duray. I thought this was nice. I was actually surprised, not in a mean or shady way, but because Lana has said herself, and she has struggled in previous design challenges, I actually thought she turned this out pretty decently. It did look prom-ish, maybe I would say because of the tulle. I think that's what you call it. It was slightly more, I don't know, on the wedding side of it for me, because it had a train of tulle, which I don't know, I'm not sure if that screams prom to me. Maybe it does. We don't really have proms as such in the UK, so no one was really wearing stuff like this. We were just wearing kind of regular suits and dresses and stuff, but not really stuff like this. So maybe it's just me. It was giving a tiny bit more wedding, but the actual silhouette and the way she did it was pretty decent. So I would give this a just okay. And you seem to agree, because the majority voted just okay, and then a decent amount of nay as well. So I guess just okay, but slightly more towards the nay side. So I would also agree with that. So the last collection was Prenup, and the first queen was Ariete. I loved this look. Ariete always turns it out in a design challenge. I can see the amount of detail she must have put into this. And although I don't know anything about garment construction, I can only imagine how much effort this would have taken to do that and how much skill. I loved the styling, the color, the fact that it was black, obviously, but it didn't look funereal. It still looked wedding and prenup-y. And she had the bow, and it was giving Betsey Johnson in that way because it had the slightly more whimsical side, but it was also just so chic and elegant. So yeah, this was by far a yay for me. I absolutely loved it. And it looks like you agreed because over 85% of you voted for yay as well. Next up, we had Sam Starr. I really loved this look. I think it's so chic and elegant. My only slight thing is, and I think this applies to a few other queens as well, but this one in particular, I'm pretty sure Sam said that she was basing this off a Dior runway, I believe. And even I looked at this and said, actually, I'm getting more Dior than I am Betsey Johnson. Again, as a fashion expert, I do know a little bit about Dior and Betsey Johnson. I think they are quite different styles. And to me, this wasn't giving Betsey, it was giving Dior more. But it was a fabulous look. It just maybe didn't quite hit the brief as much. But I did really love it as a look. It was actually one of my favorites because I love black and white. Always looks really stunning and classy. So I would still give this look a yay, but maybe more towards the just okay side because I'm not sure it screams Betsey to me. And it was interesting because in the Have Your Say poll, most of you did vote for yay, but only just, and it was almost half-half between yay and just okay. And I guess I'd have to agree, I'm not sure where to quite place it. But it was still a fabulous look. And then lastly, we had Lexi Love. I loved, pun intended, this look. It definitely screamed the most wedding dress prenup to me out of all of the three in this category because I guess it was white, the most traditional. But the way she styled it with the big veil that sort of went over her whole body, the makeup, the bow, everything just looked so good and she presented it so well. I could definitely see a Betsey side to it, although I don't think it necessarily screamed Betsey the most, but it was still a beautiful look. So I would definitely give this a yay. And almost 95% of you voted yay as well, so I think you all agreed. And then for question 4 of my Have Your Say poll, I asked who gets the slay, or in other words, the best outfit of the night. And you voted 47.8% for Lexi Love, 37.3% for Jules Sparkles, and 11.5% for Arietti. I think I would have to agree that I did love Lexi's look as a look on its own. I don't think it was as Betsey Johnson-ish as Jules's though. So if I had to go by the Betsey Johnson-ness of it all, I would have said Jules as my slay. But I can also see that if you took that part out of the equation a little bit, I would have then said Lexi because I think I enjoyed her look overall more than Jules, but not within the category of Betsey Johnson. But I don't know a huge amount about Betsey Johnson, so let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm missing some references from Lexi's that was very Betsey Johnson-ish. Okay, so we have the judges' critiques and we find out the tops are Arietti, Lexi, and Jules Sparkles. And we find out the winner is Jules Sparkles. And in the Have Your Say poll for question 5, I asked, did you agree with the winner for this week, as in Jules? And 67.4% said yes, but then 32.6% said no, which is still a decent chunk. And of the people who said no, which obviously was only about 33%, they were asked if you selected no, as in you did not agree with the winner, who do you think should have won instead? And of that 32.6% that did vote for no, 80.9% voted for Lexi Love, 15.4% for Arietti, and 2.2% for Sam Starr. And I do agree with that. I think, although I personally did think Jules deserved the win, if it wasn't Jules, it would have been Lexi, so I do agree with that. As I said, in my expert fashion opinion, I did get more Betsey Johnson from Jules's runway. Also, Betsey Johnson literally in her judge's critique said, if I close my eyes, that is the collection, looking at Jules. So, I mean, as soon as she said that, I was like, well, she has to win. There's no way. Can you imagine if Betsey had said that to Jules and then RuPaul was like, congratulations, Lexi, you're the winner of this week's challenge? I think Betsey Johnson would have been a bit like,
my drag, right?
So I think it was obvious that Jules was going to win because she literally got the endorsement from the person who the challenge is based off. But I will also agree, I do think that Jules's looked the most Betsey Johnson-ish. And what's interesting is if you've watched my Roscoe's for this week, and if you haven't, why the heck not? Go and watch it. I'll link to it in the description. Lexi, Anya, and Ariete were the guests this week at Roscoe's. And Lexi said that she did not think that Jules deserved to win. And Ariete also said the same thing. They thought each other were going to win, as in Lexi and Ariete. And Lexi even said that she thought that Jules' outfit was not that good. So I was kind of surprised by that because I actually did agree. I think Jules did deserve it. Lexi's was perhaps more stunning, I think, but Jules' nailed the category, and that is ultimately the challenge. And we find out the queens who are low are Anya, Corey, and Lydia. Lydia and Corey then lip sync to the song Kiss Me Deadly by Lita Ford. And Corey King sadly gets eliminated. And I asked you in my Have Your Say poll, did you agree with the eliminations / bottoms? So I kind of combined them. Maybe I should have put it into two different questions, but hey, can't change that now.
Dumbass.
And this was interesting because it was almost a 50-50 split. So yes was 51%, but no was 49%. So yes, only just one. And so then of those people who did vote for no, I asked who you think should have been in the bottom or eliminated instead. Anya Nerve got 70%, Susie Toot got 13.9%, and Lana Duray got 12.7%. Now, I assume the 70% for Anya was saying that she should be in the bottom rather than eliminated. And I think I do have to agree, although I love Anya, I didn't really like her outfit that much. And in my opinion, Lydia's was more elaborate, and I think there was more sort of skill and garment construction involved in it, even though it was too much. So I do think that Lydia should have been safe, and it should have been Corey and Anya in the bottom instead. And in terms of the lip sync, I did really enjoy it. And I think it was so obvious that those two were going to be put in the bottom together. Obviously, they're in a relationship and they still are to this day. But on set, that was really their biggest and kind of only storyline. It was so obvious they were going to do it. They've done it so many times with other people like Sugar and Spice, Vanjie and Brooklyn. So I think it was very clear it was going to happen. But I did kind of live for the drama a little bit. I mean, there's no prizes for people who know I love a bit of drama. So I did quite enjoy that as kind of the production side of it. And it was a fun lip sync. I think they both did a decent job. And obviously the kiss was the big part of it. And that did give me a big chuckle because it was obviously what we were all waiting for. And we were all kind of, I suppose, hoping for, given that their storyline was they're in a relationship. So I did really appreciate that. And actually, there were so many comments in the Have Your Say poll of people saying that it should have been a double Shantae You Stay because maybe because of the kiss. In terms of the actual Have Your Say poll voting, though, for question 7, which was who won the lip sync in your opinion, you voted 85% for Lydia and 15% for Corey. And I do have to agree, I think Lydia sold it a lot more. She's actually a really good lip sync, and we did see that in her other lip sync that she did. I think Corey just looked maybe a tiny bit defeated. I think in Untucked, she basically said she knew she was going home. And she basically said as much in her exit interview with Joey Nolfi of Entertainment Weekly, which I talked about in my Roscoe's recap. Ding, another plug.
Could you shut up a second?
And I'll link to that in the description, but basically Corey said she knew she was going to go home and she wanted Lydia to stay anyway. So I do think the right decision was made that Lydia was the winner of the lip sync. Also, I noticed in the Have Your Say poll that so many people said that they loved Butt King, which is obviously a mix of Lydia Butthole Collins and Corey King, but Butt King. I don't know if that's like an official title. Maybe it is. I've not heard that before, but so many people were saying things like, I love Butt King Kiss was fun. So yeah, I do agree. I love that name, by the way. That's so funny, Butt King. But I did enjoy the lip sync overall, and the kiss was fun. Okay, so for the rest of the Have Your Say poll, we had question 8, which was, who do you want to win the season? And Lexi Love got 24.7%, Anya Nerve got 23.7%, and then Jules Sparkles got 19.6%. And then question 9 was, who do you think will win? Anya got 50.1%, which is the majority. Lexi Love then got 29.1, and then Sam Star got 8.6, with Susie 2 getting 7.9. And I think it's really interesting to see how this has developed over the season, because at the beginning, everyone was voting for Lexi to win. And then now I think that's starting to sort of slightly shift. And then it was going towards Anya. And now people like Jules are really coming up in the rankings as well. And it's very interesting to see the difference between who people think will win and who they want to win. Anya comes out on top for pretty much both categories. So as I've said for the last couple of weeks, I do think Anya probably has it in the bag at this point. I do really love Lexi, and I think she is sort of getting a slight winner's edit in the sense of she does have a lot of storylines in the season and things like that. but I also think Anya has really kind of come up the ranks and people really love her and the judges really love her as well. RuPaul is obsessed with Anya, you can tell. And it kind of changes depending on who does well which week and things like that. But it is interesting to see that Susie was on top for a while, but now she's slipped down and then Jules has kind of overtaken her. So I think at this point it could be anyone's game, but in my opinion, I do think that Anya's probably going to win. Okay, so just moving on to some of your comments for this week. So my Patreon member Yael said, I felt the production would put Lydia and Corey in the bottom together, but to me, they were clearly the bottom two. I was shocked by Corey's dress. It seemed a lot went wrong there. And as I said, I did think they were going to put the two in the bottom together. It made good TV and it was the obvious choice, so I can see why they did that. My Patreon Riot actually agreed with what I had kind of said and said, I'm team Anya all the way, but I think she should have been in the bottom with Corey. Yeah, and I agree. I do think that Anya probably should have switched places with Lydia. My Patreon Stephen was taking no prisoners this week and said, Corey's was bad, Anya's was bad, Susie's was worse than Lydia's. In Untucked, they weren't even hiding that the lip sync bottom two because of the storyline. That being said, the kiss was well done. My Patreon member Rhodey said, I think Lydia's gown was a lot to look at, but you could clearly see a lot of the effort and skill that went into it, which I agree with. I feel like Anya was the one that should have been in the bottom, but it would have probably resulted in Corey going home anyway, so might as well have had the couple storyline / kiss. This is actually a really good point. I do agree that putting Lydia and Corey in the bottom, even if it wasn't the right choice from a fairness point of view, it did give the best television and the storyline of the couple with the kiss. So I think ultimately it is an entertainment show, so you have to do what's the most entertaining. So I do agree with that, and I thought that was a really good observation by Rhodey. And my Patreon member Rinex Quinn, which by the way is a great name because it trips off the tongue so well, but Rinex Quinn basically agreed and said, I was sad to see Lydia and Corey lip sync, but it made a better storyline, and that Corey's outfit was not great. And my Patreon Gardy was also not taking any prisoners this week and said, that horrific hem on Corey's dress single-handedly lost Rue the Emmy for this episode. Lexi's look was out of this world and should have won. Arietti's was a stunner. That being said, I respect Rue's decision to give the win to Jules because Betsey went gaga for it, and I think that sealed the deal. And I totally agree. Can you imagine if they had not given Jules the win after Betsey literally said this is the collection? So I think it was obvious, but I did also agree with the decision. And I think the whole thing about Lexi maybe potentially winning or being high was a lot of people's comments this week in the Have Your Say poll. And for example, people were saying Lexi's fit was stunning and probably the best Julia Fox veil we've ever seen on Drag Race. That being said, I think Jules deserved the win down because she gave Betsey the most. Someone said Lexi was just robbed in this episode and I hate seeing the forced production of it all. And I'm not sure I'd say Lexi was robbed. While I think she did a great job this week, I do think Jules's was more Betsey Johnson-ish. So to me, that did give her the win. And Betsey herself literally said that was the collection. So you can't really argue with the person who literally inspired the challenge. And also I just want to say thank you to all of the people who put really lovely positive comments about my video. It really is so heartwarming to read these things. If you watched my mean comments video that I put out recently, you'll know that I do really appreciate a lot of your lovely comments, and I really enjoyed reading all of your lovely comments on the comments of that video too. But it's so nice to have positive comments on the Have Your Say poll because a lot of them are quite often negative. So I do really appreciate it and I do try and read them all. So thank you very much. Okay, so now let's move on to a little bit of light-hearted drama to do with the fact that Jules Sparkles apparently once got fired by Trinity the Tuck. Okay, so this all started because Trinity the Tuck posted a TikTok where she said that she had seen an article with Crystal Method from season 12 where Crystal had said that Jules once got fired by Trinity. Now, I tracked down this article that Trinity was referring to, and it was an interview that Crystal Method did with a site called Thotosy. I think that's how you say it. And in the interview, Crystal was asked lots of questions about different things, but one of the questions was who she was rooting for on season 17. And Crystal said, quote, I'm personally rooting for Jules Sparkles. We met in South Africa while I was filming a movie for Tubi called Slay. She was working as an assistant for Trinity the Tuck. Unfortunately, she wasn't very good at her job and got fired. Thankfully, she has Drag Race to fall back on. And this then started the rumour that Jules got fired by Trinity the Tuck. And because Crystal had said this in the interview and the rumour then started, Trinity then posted a TikTok video giving her side of it. In the TikTok video, Trinity confirmed that while she was in South Africa filming the movie Slay, which came out in 2024, and it was made by the streaming platform Tubi, during that time, Jules was working as Trinity's assistant. And Trinity said the claim that Crystal had made that Jules got fired because she was terrible at her job is only partially true. But Trinity started off by saying that Jules was indeed terrible at her job.
Jules was absolutely terrible as an assistant because every chance she got, she was making TikToks, she was taking selfies, she was texting, doing anything but getting me my energy drink and my script. I mean, like, literally her job was so basic.
However, Trinity made it clear that she did not fire Jules because she was, quote, stuck with her.
But she did not get fired. I did not fire her. She got paid in full. And I couldn't fire her, girl. We were in another country and I didn't have another assistant. So I was stuck with her.
And then Trinity ended the video by saying this about Jules.
Valuable lesson learned. Jules is a terrible assistant and she can't even assist herself, let alone be an assistant for somebody else. Good thing is, so far she's been good at Drag Race.
And I saw that Crystal then commented on Trinity's TikTok video saying, "Love you, mother." And so obviously this is just light drama. It's nothing serious. And it seems like all of them are cool about it. But I just thought this was really interesting, T, because I didn't realize that Jules had once worked for Trinity the Tuck as her assistant. And now Jules is on Drag Race with Trinity's drag daughter, Sam Star. So it's just kind of funny how it all interconnects. Okay, and then there was also another light bit of drama this week that was to do with Bob the drag queen clapping back at Violet Chachki. So, as you probably know, Violet Chachki and Gottmik have a podcast called No Gorge, where they talk about things like drag race, fashion, and other hot topics. And Bob and Monet also have a podcast called Sibling Rivalry, where they discuss the episodes of Drag Race and give their opinions on them, as well as other things. Well, recently, Violet said on her podcast that she didn't think that Bob and Monet are qualified to talk about other people's fashion.
I think Bob and Monet are not allowed to talk about aesthetics. They literally need to not speak about aesthetics. They're like, I don't know what it is. Whenever we do it, we get raked through the combs.
Violet then said she was going to call Bob directly to say it to Bob's face, and Violet called Bob, and Bob was actually recording the podcast with Monet at the time, so they were both recording podcasts at the same time, and both of their videos show the call from two different perspectives. And that's when Violet then said to Bob and Monet that she didn't think they were qualified to judge other queens' fashion.
Y'all read the drag queen girls on y'all's podcast. You drag these bitches through the mud to the point where I start to feel bad for them. We want y'all to know that you are not qualified.
And Bob and Monet kind of laughed about it, and Bob even said, quote, "from two winners to one winner and a loser." And Bob also had this to say.
Let me be clear. If I had been competing against Trixie Mattel, Ginger Minge, and Temperature Jour, I would have won that season 2.
Okay, well, not by aesthetics. Let me tell you that much.
And that was the end of the conversation. But then the No Gorge TikTok account posted a clip where Violet was saying that she doesn't think that Bob and Monet are qualified to judge fashion. And Bob seemed to then clap back to this TikTok by posting their own TikTok, which said this.
Do y'all remember when Violet Chachki was one of the hosts of Fashion Photo Review and the season was so bad that they just took it off the air and you can't find it anywhere anymore? Maybe you're not qualified to hold a microphone and talk.
And just to explain that part in case you don't know or maybe you've forgotten, back when All Stars 7 was airing, Violet and Gottmik hosted the YouTube show Fashion Photo Review, which is usually hosted by Raja and Raven, where they toot or boot the looks from the main stage. But obviously Raja was competing on All Stars 7 at the time, which is probably why Violet and Gottmik did it instead. But Violet and Gottmik booted several of Raja's looks, and there was a lot of backlash from people saying that Violet and Gottmik were being overly harsh or they had bad taste. And they also apparently received a lot of death threats and transphobic comments. Violet later said that she told World of Wonder to pull the episodes of Fashion Photo Review from YouTube and make them exclusive on Wow Presents Plus. And they did seemingly do that, although I've checked and it looks like they later reinstated these videos on YouTube. On the podcast, Violet even said that she was done with Drag Race and considered quitting drag at one point because of all of this. And I did talk about this in more detail in my video called The Dramatic Life of Violet Chachki. And if you want to know more about that, plus also some other interesting dramas that have happened with Violet, check it out and I'll put a link in the description. And so I think Bob was just poking some fun at Violet, and it wasn't meant in a malicious or mean way. It was just kind of banter between the queens, because Violet and Gottmik have also joked about this whole fashion photo review backlash. So I think this was just funny shade between the queens and it was nothing serious. So just remember, don't send hate to any of the queens. This was just a fun exchange and it's really not okay to send mean comments or hate to anyone. So there you go. There was the Have Your Say for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 17, Episode 9. Let me know in the comments if you like design challenges, and if not, what other challenge would you like to see replace it? I'd also like to give a special shout out to my newest Patreon member, Christopher, who joined in the You're a Winner Baby tier. Christopher, you are a winner, baby. If you'd also like to join the Patreon family, I'll put a link in the description and you can get exclusive benefits such as early access to my videos, exclusive content, access to the Patreon exclusive chat, as well as lots of other benefits. And it's just a very cheap and quick way of supporting my channel. So if you are interested, please check it out because it is much appreciated, and I'll put a link in the description. And I'd also like to say thank you so much to all of my incredible Patreon members, both new and existing. Your support really is so incredible. It is literally the difference between me being able to make videos and not sometimes. I really enjoy this Patreon community. The amount of support and love I get from you is absolutely insane. So thank you all so much. I truly, truly appreciate your support. Please make sure that you like and comment on this video because it really helps to promote it in the algorithm and help my channel grow to even more people. And please make sure you hit that subscribe button because it actually does make a huge difference, and I'd love to get to 150k by the end of the year. Thank you so much for joining me for this video, and I hope to see you for some more gossip, secrets, and drama in future videos. Thank you, bye!